So we've talked about what landing zones are and what they look like when they're implemented. But let's talk about some of the challenges that you might encounter when you're deploying your landing zones. So you might choose to read up on all the information that's provided by AWS. There's lots of white papers, there's lots of information, blog articles, videos, all sorts of things. You might decide to implement a custom solution, but then you'll probably find that it's quite a steep learning curve. There's lots to learn, and it's a bit like being on one of those travelators going the wrong way. There's always more things coming along, and there's new services created, things are evolving, so it's difficult to keep up to speed with all of that, and that can sometimes slow you down, particularly with the steep learning curve of implementing a landing zone. Another option you could choose when implementing your landing zone is to use a pre-built solution, and a great example of that is the AWS Landing Zone Accelerator. So this is an open source project that's available on GitHub that's being created by the experts at AWS in order to implement your landing zone. And this may well be the right route for you. But it's important to point out that it's based on the CloudFormation CI/CD platform and infrastructure as code. So if your engineers are used to using Terraform, then there may be some friction with choosing to adapt the Landing Zone Accelerator because of the different technologies involved. It's also important to say that this is relatively new. It's only been about for a year or so, and it is undergoing a lot of development. So it's not going to be okay to just adopt it and then job done, there's no more work to do. Like any code or project, it's going to evolve. So what we've seen happening is that features that are handled by the Landing Zone Accelerator, because they're not supported by other things like Control Tower, those new features are being added to Control Tower, and therefore they're changing within the Landing Zone Accelerator to make use of Control Tower. So that does mean that it's not kind of just choose that one and job done. There is ongoing work and evolution that takes place within that. So along with the Landing Zone Accelerator, when you do pick a custom solution that somebody else has created, it may be that there's a lack of customization. So with something like the Landing Zone Accelerator, the experts at AWS have tried to deal with most use cases, but you might find that your particular use case or the thing that you need to set up is not supported by the Landing Zone Accelerator, and that can perhaps be a bit of friction that's involved. It might be a new feature that they're looking to add in the roadmap, and therefore you need to wait until it was implemented. But it is an open source project, so you could choose to fork that code and make the changes yourself. I work on AWS and Azure, and I'd have to say that the whole landing zone concept does feel a bit more mature on the Azure side compared to AWS, but things like the Landing Zone Accelerator can really help with accelerating your move to the cloud.